Welcome to the April 22nd, 2019 Board of Selectmen meeting. Before we get started, if we all rise for our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance.
Almighty God, we come before you while acknowledging your sovereignty over all things. We thank you for the many blessings in our community. Lord, as we work together to consider the task of governance, we ask that you guide our thoughts and hearts, and we ask that you would grant to each of us wisdom and discernment. And Lord, for those who chose to pray with us, we each pray to you in the manner we were taught. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so I want to thank everyone in the audience for attending and everybody in the audience at home that might be viewing. As always, we will certainly try to get to everybody who's in the audience this evening, so they don't have to sit through, the whole session. So with that being said, we have the Boston Polo Club request for one-day liquor license. So if you want to come on up. How are we doing? Take a seat.
Sure.
Thank you. So if you could, for everybody, introduce yourself.
My name is Mark Tashton.
Okay. And you're the owner of the Boston Polo Club, correct? Okay. Well, welcome to the meeting. We certainly appreciate it. We understand that you're here for a one-day liquor license. So if you could, tell us about what you're thinking and why you need the license.
Yeah, sure. So we put on matches throughout the summertime where people can come and attend the matches for a nominal fee. They can come. A lot of people in the community come to the matches and what have you. And we do about 8 of them over the course of the summer. And so we thought that, and so we have like some food trucks that will come and different things like that. That'll come, different groups will come. The Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts came and like sold cookies last year at one of the matches and things like that, and we thought it would just be something that we wanted to get involved in, maybe selling liquor at the matches as another way to make money and have you.
Okay. So you haven't served liquor in the past?
We have not, no.
Okay. Fantastic. Can you give us a little background actually on the business? How long you've been in business? And
Sure. We've been in business for 5 years. I started the business 5 years ago. Before that, I managed a number of other clubs. I've managed Myopia Polo Club, where they would have a season-long liquor license, and a few clubs like in New York and Connecticut. So I started the club 5 years ago in Hamilton, and I moved to the location on Andover Street about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago this summer. So this will be our 3rd year having the matches and doing stuff up there. So it's been pretty successful.
Yep. And I got to say, those, first of all, I'll admit I haven't been to one, but it's only because my kids haven't had the interest yet. I want to go.
Yeah.
But for those who have gone, that I know, they have a great time there. So it sounds like you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so for those on the board, I'll open it up to any questions for Mark.
If I may?
Sure.
First of all, love it. I've been a bunch of times. It's a great time.
Thank you.
It's really, really fun.
One of them.
Seen him there too. Just a couple questions. So you haven't done it before, so I'm just curious how it would work. So what's your plan in terms of how it's going to be sold? It's going to be tickets. Who's going to sell it? Are they tip certified? Things like that.
Right. My understanding is that we need to get someone who's tip certified, and there's a couple ways. Anything that we would buy would have to be through a state licensed vendor. And there's some companies that we've talked to that actually will bring in the liquor. They'll bring in the person who's tip certified. They'll even bring in like the bar and everything like that. And they bring everything in, and then they can sell it for us there. And then the other way that we could do it is we could hire the person who's tip certified, and we could buy the liquor from the state licensed place, and we can put up a bar ourselves. And if we were to do the bar ourselves, either way, if you've been, we have like some tents. We'd probably put it in a tent. It would be, we'd make sure that it's a little bit of a separate area, and people would have to pay to purchase the alcohol.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the procedure, because I know that, for instance, just with some other events that I've done around in town and neighboring towns, we just recently had an event it was a fundraiser. We ran into some issues in terms of how alcohol could be sold and not sold, and who had the license, whether it was the establishment or the company selling it, and the type of license that they had to have. So I just want to make sure we're kind of on the same page about what exactly you do need to do what you want. It sounds like there's two different scenarios there, and I'm not sure if that's two different licenses.
Those are the scenarios for my understanding. Those are the scenarios for me selling it, and there are two different licenses that I could get. One would be like the day license, and then the other would be like a regular license where I can use it at any time. And for the day license, I believe that I as the person responsible or what have you, just like an individual had to fill out the license. I don't have to be tip certified. I just have to hire someone who is to actually serve the alcohol. And that's my understanding of the procedure for the day license and I know there's a different one for a nonprofit as well as for a for-profit. So, like, I don't believe we can sell liquor. Like, there's certain things that we can sell, like we can sell wine and we can sell malt beverages, but I know, like, we can't sell liquor or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Only a one-day license for full alcohol can go to a nonprofit. A for-profit can only sell beer and wine.
Okay.
It's just through ABCC. They have it structured.
Okay.
And they do have to buy from someone who is licensed by the state to sell the alcohol, and we've talked to
Okay.
tip certified.
Yeah, just I didn't want you to run into any issues that I did a couple weeks ago at another event.
Oh, really?
in Towfield, so.
Yeah.
Just the second part of that, I guess, would be then on the insurance. Is there anything specific that needs to be on that says anything about alcohol being served? Because I didn't see it on there. I don't know if that's separate or.
They didn't have one yet. They just sent the liability. We did talk that they should have liability insurance covering alcohol
Alcohol, right? Okay.
until their license was approved.
Okay. That's what I have.
Okay. Doug?
So you get 100 to 300 people at these matches?
Yeah, usually it's like 150 people. Yeah, up to
Okay,
300
wow.
people. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, I noticed on the front page here with that number, 100 to 300, and I'm just curious, do you provide your own security, or with that number of people, Chief, would there need to be a police officer?
Well, how we normally handle the one-day liquor license, an example would be our concert series. We actually, because that's a free event for the town of Georgetown, the police department provides them the officer for the concert series. When we give liquor licenses for the events on conservation property such as Camp Dennison, we have a lot of charitable organizations that hold events that sell beer and wine. We require the police officer because it's on town property. This is somewhat new. It's a private, it's private property, but contingent on the license, and you are the issuing authority. We've never had a problem at his events. They're very well attended. We've never had any police issues up there. Unfortunately, I have not attended, but maybe I should. I think that it would be on a case-by-case basis relative to, I see the applications for a couple of consecutive Saturdays, 3 to 7, which is a 4-hour block, May 4th, 18th, June 1st, the 8th, July 6th, and 27th. So would those be consecutive licenses, one-day licenses? Is that how the board would deal with that?
You're allowed, I think, 30 in a year.
Year, okay.
something.
So it's a one-time application for those dates?
Right.
Okay.
What I was wondering was, is there, as far as the police department is concerned, is there a cutoff with the number of people before an officer is needed?
No.
No?
No, it
Okay.
would be discretionary of the board and myself, obviously, with events that have previously occurred. This is the first go-around for the Polo Club, so.
So,
Time tested.
if you're serving beer and wine, let's say, malt liquor or whatever, do you limit the number of drinks that a person can have?
I mean, that would be up to the person who's tip certified. I would, that's something that's beyond my expertise to determine.
Well, I would think that you as the owner would have some controlling influence over that.
I would certainly, people not being intoxicated and people being safe is really important to me. Like, I'm really careful about, dogs. If people do happen to bring a dog, it has to be on a leash. Safety in general is something that's a huge concern, especially with having the horses and everything like that around. I've been at polo clubs before where, we've had people who have been intoxicated. Like when I was at Myopia, we would have to call the police on occasion. I've managed Myopia for probably 4 years, and there was one time I remember, having to call the police where there was someone that was a little bit belligerent.
I wasn't thinking of that. I was just thinking of somebody that had a number of drinks and is leaving, impaired.
Yeah, it's something that I would hope that the person who's tip certified, certainly I would have to make sure that I wouldn't just hire anyone. I would want to, nowadays you can go online and check what people say about these different places and make sure it's like a reputable place that's tip certified, not just some random person that I happen to be hiring. I'd make sure to go through a reputable place.
Well, I understand that. I guess I'm getting to the point of is that you're the owner of the establishment.
Right.
You'll be the one that's responsible if something happens.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So it would seem to me that you, as the owner, would have some control over. For example, I think correct me if I'm wrong here, Jill, but I think at the concert series, they sell tickets, and you keep a list of how many tickets a person comes and buys?
What we do is we put on their wristband, we put a mark for each time they buy.
So is there a limit?
Yeah, usually two.
Yeah.
I don't.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
something on that order.
Yeah. I mean, I think it makes sense, something like that. I certainly would keep an eye on, making sure that people aren't, having too many drinks or what have you. And it's something as well that if it got to the point where if a huge number of people were coming and, usually I have an idea about how many people are coming, I would certainly, if it was something that I thought I needed to have a police officer, I definitely wouldn't hesitate. I mean, I feel like I have a good relationship with them. There's been a number of times that I've had to contact them for different reasons.
Right. Well, I'm just trying to look out and see liability for you.
I mean, I think that makes sense. It's not something where I have a specific number in my head.
Okay, I mean, because it's different than a public.
Yeah.
This is on private property.
Yeah.
Mark, how long are these other matches?
So the matches, we allow people on the property for about 4 hours. The match themselves lasts about 2 hours.
Yeah.
And so then,
So it's a 4-hour.
yeah, we'll have people who will show up like an hour early, and some people will bring like little grills and what have you, or they'll bring like their, food and what have you.
But to
and then-
Doug's point, 4 hours is a long time for consumption.
Yeah, I mean, I would be, I wouldn't anticipate that we would be selling alcohol for the 4 hours. Like for the food, usually like the food, they stop selling it 3/4 of the way through the game, like other sporting venues. Usually 3/4 of the way through, the food truck packs up. And so I would imagine that we wouldn't be selling the whole way through because we want to get people out of there at some point as well. So it's like we'd probably start wrapping it up, and then a lot of people will hang out after and we wouldn't be serving when they're just like hanging out after, while they wrap up their stuff, and their kids might play in the grass with like a football or what have you. So that 4-hour period, I see your concern. We probably wouldn't be selling for that entire 4-hour period.
All right, I'm just, because this is your first time.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to flesh out
Yeah.
thinking on it.
It's definitely a good point.
I have a different mindset on private property than I do on public properties.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead. You want to go?
Go ahead,
Thanks.
if the chair so chooses.
Okay.
Let her up, Steve.
All right. Yeah, I've attended these since inception. I guess you can. Our circle of friends that we go to, I guess you can call us groupies of the polo match. But it's always been a professionally run event. They check as you go in. They make sure that you're supposed to be there. So that I've always thought of them as being, responsible business owners, and I haven't seen any issues at the events that we go to. I can understand the hours that you guys were talking about, but I also look at it like a restaurant, right? You could be at a restaurant for 8 hours if you want, if you really wanted to, and you could drink for 8 hours, right? So I think, ultimately it's going to be up to, the owner of the business and the people that are serving to determine if someone has had too much. So, I have no problem with it, and I look forward to future events, and hopefully we'll all
Drink.
be in consensus to add a vote for this. So.
Thank you. Go ahead, Gary.
Do you have any vendors lined up? I mean, what's your intention on beer and wine vendors? Are you hoping to have different, like, local breweries, or are you intending to just get somebody in that serves several different types of each? I guess who are you intending to line up to be a?
So one thing, I guess, with me having a private business and getting this license, I don't think that we can serve free alcohol. Like, if a brewery gave us free alcohol, we can't go and turn around and sell it or give it away
Right.
for free. It has to be stuff that we actually purchase through the state licensed distributors.
You're hoping to purchase and have tip certified service?
Yeah, we would either have to purchase ourselves and have the tip certified person, or there's these actual organizations that will come in and they already have the alcohol, they have the tip certified person. And so it seems like, at least initially, that's a little bit simpler. Like, this is something we want to try out. And it's something that, I think initially, for the first one at least, it would probably be easier just to get them to come in. But it's something that, a lot of the other clubs that I've worked at have done in-house. So over time, I think that would be a good thing for us to be able to do.
Okay, so so here's my thing for me, that it all sounds great. I mean, these type of things are good for the town and that, but they're not always good for the people who live in the area. And if it was a one-day license, that's okay, but we're talking 6 days here. And I have concerns about the neighborhood in that there. Well, I guess my chief...
Gary, can I stop you for 1 second? Just to clarify, it's actually 8 days.
Oh, it is 8
Yeah,
days.
so I just want to make sure, we're talking.
Okay, so it's 8...
We have 7th, 14th, 21st, 28th, 4th of August, 11th, 18th, and 25th.
Okay, I didn't
Okay.
see the August. I thought
Yeah.
mine
I don't
is
see
in
August
July.
on here.
Okay.
It goes to July.
So, yeah, it's on it. Well, anyway, it might have cut off on your print. I don't know. Is that true? 8 days?
Yeah, I believe
It's eight-
so.
Okay.
July.
No, well,
So I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you for that,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. So it's 8 days. So I guess my next line, Chief, any problems with crowds, or I know it's off the, you're probably not prepared, but I mean, have you heard of any neighbors calling with any issues or anything?
I have not. I mean, it's an established business, and
Yeah.
the neighborhood, by design, is equestrian driven. I mean, even the homes across the street have, large fields and then old
Right.
barns and things like that. And it backs up to a golf course.
Yeah.
So as far as having, and even where the club is situated,
Yeah,
the
and
polo
it kind
club.
of goes down Ballpate.
Yeah,
So
the
there's
only
really
residence
one
on
or
the
two
left is
houses
one
there on the
that's.
corner.
Yeah.
And they did have stables out there themselves.
Right,
that-
so, I mean, it's a pretty open area. Traffic has never been a problem because, I mean, he has a very large parcel of land there, so he's able to get his vehicles off the road, from a business standpoint. And the differentiation for me as the police department is when these events occur on town property, there's a different level of liability for us as the community, as far as requiring a police detail. I think the permit will sit unto itself if he opens up in May on his first Saturday and it's just beyond what he can handle and there's a police response. I'll have to come back to this board and work with the owner to try and ensure that something like that would not happen again. I try not to force, I've said that before to the board and to the community, I try not to force police details. I mean, they're expensive, and there is a need for them, and we do provide a purpose when we're there. But when we don't have the umbrella of the town, where I'm absolutely obligated to have presence there, like at the park or at a Camp Dennison facility for private events such as weddings and charitable events. It's just different. This is a different situation. If the owner felt necessary, he could have a detail there for the first day to see how it works, and it may be a very controlled environment. He has his crowds under control, and we can report back on his behalf with that, so that he's not required to do it for all 8 consecutive days, if in fact it's not a sustainable plan for him. I mean, I would certainly be able to work with him in that regard to allow his business to flourish and promote his business.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say no, but I mean, when I look at these things, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, actually, I have egg on my face.
8
It
days.
is 6. It is 6.
Oh,
For some reason, I'm clicking.
It's 6.
I'm clicking on the link. I'm clicking on the link and it's opening up theirs. So I click on Boston Polo and it's bringing up, for some reason, their application.
You have some explaining to do about the
So it is 6. So I'm my back.
the concert series sort of fell in, first it was the concerts went on, and they came in with 1 liquor license. And it went well, and then I think they came in here, this was before Jill was doing it, and they came and said, well, let's do 2 days. And it all went off, and now it's gone to, I believe that they have a 1-day liquor license for every concert, and I have no problem with that. But I do, looking at something that's new, not knowing how it's working out in the neighborhood. So I do like the suggestion that the chief said, because I mean, that was it. We could, I guess we could do it, we could just do it, and if you said if there was a problem, you could come back but the license is already signed and everything. I don't know, I mean, that's more your authority, whether we could say, or,
The licensing authority, you can
You can
always call them,
revoke it,
call them in, and you can revoke a license, I mean, if need be, that's
okay,
that authority.
okay.
So I think the long and the short here, Mark, is that, there's some concern on this board, that it's the first time around. So, make sure you're doing the right things, make sure, you're doing your due diligence as far as tracking, okay, consumption. Okay, and I think if you do that, I think, I think it should be okay.
If I could,
Well, they get the highbrow crowd.
Al, I'm almost wondering if we said, come back at our next meeting, and then if anybody heard, that would give anybody a chance to come to a meeting and say something. But perhaps, as the chief said, it is all escorting. I'm familiar with the area, so I'm okay to go ahead. I'm hesitant, but you don't always feel 100% right about everything, do you?
All right, members, I think we spent some good time on this, so.
And what was the times for this?
3 to 7,
3 to 7.
Saturdays.
Can I have a motion, please? Does anybody want to
I
make?
make a motion. Oh, no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You got it.
Go ahead.
I need to stop. I'm sorry.
We're going to argue about this?
Go ahead, Steve.
Mr. Chair, I move that we grant 6 one-day liquor licenses for the Boston Polo Club. The dates May 4th, May 18th, June 1st, June 8th, July 6th, and
27.
27th, okay. July 6th and 27th, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturday.
Second?
Hey, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, do we have anything pending that would make this conditional upon?
Just the liability insurance that we need to get from him.
Okay,
He gave
yeah.
us just a copy of his liability for
Right, so
his business, but not
Pending issuance
We
of
need to add it on.
the liability.
And I can hold the license until we
Okay.
receive that.
That's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, we had a motion and then we had a second before you.
we had
should
discussion.
I know we had discussion, so we can just add that on, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll just throw that in there. Okay. Any further discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
That's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for attending, Mark. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.
Best of luck.
Thanks again, Mark.
Thanks.
Make sure we're keeping a close eye, all right?
Definitely.
All right. All right. Next in line is our summer concert series.
How'd you get that?
Good evening, ladies. How are you?
Evening.
If we could start by introductions, if you would.
Okay, I'm Jill Venus from One Lee Way.
Good to see you again, Jill.
Thank you.
Tamara Schofield, 5 Bartlett Drive.
Hi, Tamara. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Good. Well, thanks for joining tonight. We certainly appreciate it. Looking forward to another year. All right, so we're excited to hear about what you guys have on tap. So, with that being said, I'm going to give you the floor, and why don't you let us know what's going on?
Okay, well, do you all have copies of everything? So you,
Just what you gave me today and
okay. Yes, we have 7 concerts actually
7?
slated for every Sunday in July and August, with the last one being our rain date, because we did run into issues last year with a couple of rainouts. So we decided let's save that last date for a rain date. So that's what we're doing. We're going to continue to have Ipswich Brewery involved. Unfortunately, they don't want to send the tap truck. They're going to send a tent with canned beer and pour from cans. I think it's just more
Economical.
economical. There was a lot of waste last year if they didn't sell. And a food truck, which we're not set in stone as to who's coming when yet, but basically some of the same people from last year. But we're still working on that. And hours are the same. Basically carbon copy of what we did last year, with one date being a business night alongside the concert, and one night being the classic car show. Pretty sure that's going to be on.
Which one's the classic car show?
Right now, we're hoping.
It's at the bottom of the.
the 11th.
The 11th, yeah.
It's at the bottom of the packet. If you click it. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
One change that we're hoping to do this year is to add in a wine vendor and maybe a hard cider vendor. So not necessarily on the same night that Ipswich Brewery is there as well, but just to kind of shake it up for folks who maybe want something different.
Good.
So I had noticed that you haven't served wine or well, I know you haven't served hard cider, but you haven't served wine at these before, have you?
no. It's very hard to find someone. We may not be successful. I've already been 2 people that I've approached said no. It would just, they don't have the staffing to do it and wouldn't want to, commit and then not be able to fulfill it, so. I've actually asked Ipswich Brewery, because someone told me that occasionally they do have wine.
Oh, yeah?
But I think you have to end up buying the rest of the bottle if it doesn't get sold or something, so we're still looking into that.
So you want the approval of this with the option of adding wine or hard cider?
Yes, yeah.
Well, it's a wine and malt beverages.
Yeah, it does seem-
license, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is usually what we're giving them anyway, wine and malt, so it would include that.
I'm gonna open it up to the board, for questions, comments.
Any problems down there, Chief?
No, I think that, this has been resurrected as one of the gems of our community, the concert series, thanks to these folks here. I work extremely close with them. We're actually meeting tomorrow at 9,
10:30?
10:30?
Oh,
Close.
10:30?
I have it written down. I know it's there. I know. I'll be there.
Well, I'll double check my calendar.
I'll check, but I'll be there. But we are going to meet to try and maybe get some permanent signs for the concert series, so they're not putting up and down cardboard signs and using highway department horses, that we can actually create some type of permanency for them temporarily for the season with the concert series. It's been a wonderful event. I go down there both in uniform and out of uniform just to try to look around, and it's just been great. And I think that I provide the police coverage for them so that they don't have to pay for it. We do that as a community initiative. We put an officer down there, as well as some duty officers, and especially in the summertime when our SROs are out of the schools, we have some extra officers on duty, so that's nice. But there hasn't been anything to report back but positive. I love it when the weather's good, and I love it when people are having fun, and it makes that ALP all worth it when I see it being utilized like that. And these folks, we actually started a couple of years ago with some officers, kind of giving them ownership to dealing with the parking, and they uniform their staff so that they can see, you can see who's actually part of their organization with a reflective vest, so that people are directing for handicap parking and for overflow parking. I know Sergeant DiFio has worked a lot down there. He gets very engaged with it. He likes to keep spaces open, so he's not over-invested, but invested in the program. So I just report nothing but positive for that. And the alcohol has been zero concern.
Okay, great. If I might. Jerry, go ahead.
Yeah, now, these are all Sundays, correct?
Correct.
And
Yes,
this
sir.
covers most of July and August, all the Sundays in July and August, and that's from 4 to 8?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got your schedule,
So we
your
know where
calendar
you'll
all
be.
set?
It's perfect for the 4-hour event, too, for our officers.
It is.
4 hours
It's
is
a
a
great
good event.
event. I mean, the
Yeah.
sun's just starting to go down by the time you're going home, and you're home early, and a lot of family there with kids on the playground, and
It's a lot of fun.
Just a quick question, actually.
Yep, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you guys, how did that one-way parking work? Or, I know you instituted it last year, where you made it just like a one-way. Was that successful? And
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so, yeah.
you
Really.
didn't have any issues with parking? or
A few people went the wrong way, but,
that
they
happens.
usually hear about it.
yeah.
No, that's great. I'm
But
glad.
yeah, no, it really made the flow much nicer and quicker.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Good. That's good to hear.
Yeah,
Well, I
that's good.
wish you the best of luck, and
Thank you.
want to thank you for doing it for the town. So, thank you both.
Go ahead, Doug.
As you know, I have yet to vote yes on one of these, because I'm of the opinion that these are town-sponsored family events, and that I just don't see the need for alcohol at the events. That being said, I still feel that way. However, I have seen the last 2 years of how it's been run, and it's been run very well, and it hasn't been abused. So I do believe that I would be voting yes on this because of the way it's been run. Although I still don't think it's necessary,
Right.
but
Well, so to address, because it was brought up earlier, so to address the concern with any overconsumption, we do, like we said, have, when folks pay for a bracelet for the opportunity to buy a beer, we do hash their bracelet when they come by to get another ticket. They can only get a beer from Ipswich Brewery with a ticket from us, and we're checking their hashtags on their bracelets. We've not had anyone who comes anywhere close to abusing that, but if they were, we would know about it.
I've watched.
Yeah. So
I've watched.
that's, I think, the best we can do.
But no, I mean, it really
What we're
is
offering.
very well. And with the chief saying that they haven't had any issues there, and I know the police are down there walking around,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Plenty of presents.
Yeah. I must say, there has been one issue, but not with the drinking, but with trash. And that was 4th of July weekend. That was really
Well,
horrendous.
that was a hot weekend, too.
Yeah.
Yes, it
And it
was.
was a busy week, and despite numerous phone calls, it wasn't rectified until after the 4th of July.
Yeah, there was some
was sad.
mix-ups on that.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I spoke with Juliet Reck, and she said they plan on a double pickup that week, I believe. And they also, she also mentioned that she'd like the dumpster to be moved from the fencing area over to the wooded area, which was done last year, but it didn't stay there. It was moved back. So they're working on that. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, there was something, I forget the,
Yeah, the reasoning, the issue, yeah.
Well, it certainly would open up more spaces for what we have as
Well,
handicapped
that's right.
spots
That's
as well.
what we had requested, so we're working on that too.
Our meeting is 10 tomorrow.
Okay,
Check
thank
my
you.
calendar.
Okay,
We'll be there.
all right.
Sounds like communication between me and my wife. I mean, it's
Text though.
9, 10:30. All right, we'll meet in the middle. 10. Kip, do you have any?
No, I'm good.
remarks?
It's a
Okay.
great event, and I appreciate you guys putting it on.
Yeah.
It's very well done.
A lot of fun things.
So I have one question. With Ipswich now bringing the tent and now serving the cans, I assume, is there any talk about getting recycling bins in there rather than throwing away? I mean, I'm a stickler for it, so I'm
Yeah,
going to ask.
no.
I would rather have a recycle bin there rather than just garbage.
Oh,
No, but that's
definitely.
easy.
Put it in a cup.
My household,
Sometimes them places, they put it in a cup and keep the can.
we'll have to ask them what they'll
Yeah,
do.
how
If
they-
they are going to keep the cans and then take them back to their own,
Okay.
they may do that. And if not, there's an easy way to address that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take them back. My family recycles, so we
Yeah.
would take them back and just dump them in my recycle bin.
It's a lot of cans, no?
Add them to the 50/50.
Yeah, we could do that. Whatever works. Maybe we can donate it to the Boy Scouts.
Well, that'd be
Yeah.
great. I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, I'm a
Yeah.
stickler for recycling, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? No? All right, if I can hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that the Board of Selectmen approve 7 one-day liquor licenses with a rain date added for 8 to the Georgetown Concert Series to be held July Sundays from 4 to 8 p.m. July 7, 14, 21, 28, August 4, 11, 18, with a rain date being August 25th.
Second.
Sorry.
Was it?
25.
25, yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you.
I'd like to make, I'd like to make one comment here, is that this year, the American Legion celebrates its 100th birthday. We actually have in the Renee J. Gagnon American Legion Post 211, we have one gentleman that's older than the American Legion. He's 102. So, but anyhow, the concert series has been gracious enough to allow the American Legion to have a table there with poppies and just information on the Legion. So I want to announce that and say thank you.
You're welcome.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's
It's your
fantastic.
park.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I won't go into that story.
Well, thank you, ladies. I appreciate you guys attending.
You're welcome. Thank
See
you.
you tomorrow. Hopefully
Okay.
to see you.
Yeah.
10 o'clock.
10:30.
10.
10, 9, 8, 11. All right, so for our board members, so I want to hand this over to Chief to give us some information on, something that is on a warrant that's concerning to some, and that is the reduction of speed on the warrant, as that is going to be voted. There are some people who have had a question regarding quote-unquote thickly settled areas as opposed to, the thickly settled areas that are, or maybe even thickly settled areas that are just on main roads and so forth and so on. So what I asked Chief to do is do some research regarding some of the side roads that have really been, complained about a little bit more than others, right? So that maybe we can have a conversation and make sure that people understand at town meeting really what the effort is here on this question. So Chief, with that being said, if you could take us through that.
Sure. Back in 2016, the state adopted, and I had provided this a copy, I believe, last year, the municipal modernization bill. And included in that bill was our ability for cities and towns, the local government, to establish a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone in a thickly settled area as defined in Chapter 90, Section 17. So if you take the town of Georgetown, for example, obviously we have many thickly settled areas, but we also have other areas that are defined under Chapter 90, Section 18, that are specially regulated, such as North Street, East Main Street, West Street. By definition, those roadways are in fact thickly settled. However, state regulation has adopted a higher speed limit. North Street, Central Street has a variance of speeds, just like Andover Street. But what that doesn't allow for is all of our tributary roadways are currently thickly settled, unless posted otherwise, at 30. So if it's unposted, a thickly settled area unposted is 30 miles an hour. And this was brought to light last year with Lakeshore Drive, for example. And the other tributary roads off of Lakeshore Drive, such as Beverly Drive, Bradford Loop, Hamilton Terrace, Mohawk Circle, Lower Bailey Lane, Taylor Street, are all 30 by definition. So this regulation was designed to assist communities in balancing the speed limit in those areas. It does not affect our regulated speed zones that are already been established and posted. Andover Street, for example, goes from 25 to 35 to 40 to 45 once you hit the Boxwood line past the former VFW, sadly. And then when you come back, it's the same thing. So this particular change would not affect Andover Street. What it would affect is all of our tributary roads, such as Ballpate, Nelson, Chaplin, any roadway that's a thickly settled area by definition, that 200 feet of consecutive houses, at least a quarter of a mile, would just balance all of those speed limits and regulate them at 25. And then there would be signs established at 18 points in our community. There's 18 different ways to come in through to Georgetown on public ways. I actually counted them. So there would be special signs that would say 25 miles an hour is our speed limit unless otherwise posted. And we have many, many roadways that are already posted that would not fall within the confines of that 9017 thickly settled. Right now, for example, Lakeshore Drive presented to your board last year to change Lakeshore Drive to 25. However, Lakeshore Drive would be 25, but Beverly Drive and Bradford Loop and Hamilton Terrace would still be 30. And you're in the same neighborhood. So I started to establish a list when I spoke to the chairman, because he had some questions, as did some other residents when I spoke to them as well. And to pick and choose various streets, of course we could do that. However, it's not going to change the fact that there are tributary roads off those streets that may also want that 25-mile-an-hour zone to be established and regulated in their neighborhoods. So I think that, and I saw some of how the votes came down with regard to the warrant article after it was put on the warrant by the board. I believe the FinCom voted 04.
04.
So I think there's a misunderstanding as to what we're trying to accomplish. But most important, the standardization, cities such as Beverly, Newburyport have done it because it just balances all of those neighborhood issues. Now, if a road as defined, such as Tenney Street, has an undivided overpass, we have 3 right? We have 3 overpasses. 2 are undivided. That's not going to change. That's 40. That's established 9018. And then outside the confines of that, for example, when you are on Tenney Street, that corner where Stillian Electric is 30 miles an hour. Anybody ever try to do that at 30? Ain't gonna happen, because people have tried it, and guess what? Then we're called. So obviously, that would be a great assistance in that area, as well as some of the other thickly settled areas in the community where there's a question as to what the speed limit is. My fear was last year and the year before, and then now this year, is that if we take the tact and just do various roadways, there'll be other residents who are excluded and will want their roadways included, and in the end, we're basically establishing a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit in our thickly settled areas outside our already posted specially regulated roadways, like North Street, for example, is 35. We'll not change that.
Oh, Chief.
And our business districts, I'm sorry, 25 is a regulated 90, 3018, Chapter 90, Section 18 at 25. And your school zones of 20.
So if I understand it correctly, then, the current signs that are there, even on the thickly settled roads for 30, will, if they're posted at 30,
Well, those would have to come down if it's established at the
they would
thickly
have to
settled.
come down,
Yes.
okay, I get
Because
it.
you're changing that thickly settled definition, which originally fell under, you're giving you, the board and town meeting, the authority to change that speed limit in that defined thickly settled area.
So the only ones that we wouldn't change would be ones that are above 35 in essence, or?
That's correct, so long as it's not specially established regulation under 9018.
Okay.
And that would
It would
by
go up to
definition,
25. Gotcha.
accomplish what you just said.
Yeah, okay.
I think when it was described, for example, Central Street, when you leave the community, it's 25 through our business zone, then you go out, it goes to 35, then it goes to 40, it drops down again to 35, and there's this seesaw on some of our roadways because of roadway delineation and the residential housing or business. Like Andover Street, when I started this job, was posted 35 the entire way.
Oh, really?
And it was wrong, and we were called out on that by various groups, and they were right, because when we looked at the legislative acts of the regulated speed limits on Andover Street, speed limit beyond the VFW, because of, and that was prior to the houses being developed on the left side of the roadway, on the south side. It was all woods, and the speed limit there by regulation is 45, so we took down the signs because they were illegally placed there, and we put up the regulated speed signs so that we're in compliance with the law.
Okay, makes sense.
Lakeshore Drive used to be posted 25, but that wasn't the lawful speed limit of Lakeshore Drive.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps, and that was the mission, and I don't know if it's been conveyed to the public or even some of our boards as to, we're not trying to change Georgetown to have just a 25-mile-an-hour zone. We're trying to establish a lower speed limit for thickly settled areas. All of our currently posted special regulated roadways remain untouched.
Go ahead, Dick.
What precipitated this whole conversation were the folks that live down on Lakeshore and Taylor, Bailey Lane.
That's correct.
And I know that I drive through there frequently now at different speeds. And 15 to 20 is, in my mind, more than enough. But there was brought up that on one section of, I believe, Taylor or Lakeshore, there's a daycare center. And that if there was such a establishment, I assume the licensed establishment, that the speed limit for however many feet prior and after could be 15 or 20 miles an hour.
Yes, I brought that because I figured it was going to come up. This document here is the procedures for speed zoning on state highways and municipal roads by the Massachusetts DOT, and it describes the process, a very comprehensive process to change and create special zones. So it includes traffic studies, it includes them actually coming out and doing particular studies of the roadway, the business itself. That goes beyond the municipal authority. We would have to proceed in this arena if in fact there was a daycare, a special zone, regardless of what that business is as defined in this manual.
So would it be then the residents of that area that would follow through on that, or would it be the board?
It would be the community. We would have to request traffic studies through Merrimack Valley. We would have to comply with the permitting of attempting to get that particular special speed zone as defined outside of the original Chapter 90, 17, and 18.
One thing I think you've said in the past, many times, they come out and they raise the speed limits instead of lower.
It's happened a lot here.
Yeah.
Now, we have an elementary school on Elm Street, and many years ago, we had posted that 25 and requested it be 25, and they raised it. They said, you can't have it as 25. And that was before we redid it. So we lost that battle. We lost Andover Street. We've lost a couple of our requests to lower speed limits. You know, as defined, you need to have, you need a specific cause to do it. This Modernization Act allows communities, and there's a reason why. I mean, let's face it. If we allowed city government, mayors, city councils, boards of selectmen, we wouldn't drive over 25 miles an hour anywhere. Everybody would protect their respective communities, and it would take us 2 hours to go to Danvers, right? So, you know, you have to realize that there's a reason why we were not allowed to regulate speed, because everybody that came in and there was a complaint, the government of past would just put up a sign to slow the traffic down. Well, we're not going to enforce any sign that's not lawful, nor is that the appropriate way to conduct enforcement. So we rely on this process. The Modernization Act is something that, you know, right now, if you ask my 30 officers what the speed limits are in various areas of town, they have to have cheat sheets and notes like this is 30 and this is 35 and this is 25, and, you know, the balance of having a thickly settled area at 25, and you don't even have to post all of those areas because it says that a thickly settled area as defined is now 25 miles an hour. Now, we would elect to post certain areas to try to drive that speed down, and an exemplar road would be Lakeshore Drive, to show that the speed limit is 25, to try to get that speed limit down, so that the motoring public is taught, as we were, however old you are, when you got your license at a 30-mile-an-hour zone is 30 miles an hour. I'm sorry, thickly settled.
Go ahead, David. Why don't you introduce yourself first?
David Twiss, resident of Lakeshore. We do have a Facebook group, Lakeshore Bailey Drive Neighborhood, and for many reasons, we have the pond down there, and people post stuff, and a lot of it has been the traffic. Doug, appreciate you bringing that up. There is indeed a licensed daycare on Lakeshore. As you know, when you come up, there's that sharp bend. As you start to go down the hill, the red house on the right, she has horses in the back, and then she has daycare in the home. And there, you know, there's several kids that get dropped off there in the morning. And as I mentioned before, when I was here with a bunch of my fellow neighbors, is that we have between Lower Bailey and the top of Lakeshore into Hamilton, we have roughly 8 to 10 bus stops, because the road is so long that if you have a kindergarten student or a first grade student, it's a long way for them to go. Even I now drive my 2 children, both 4th grade and 1st grade, down to towards lower end of Bailey, because it's a little thinner there and the cars seem to go a little slower. And when we're standing there at the corner of Beverly and Taylor, it's a little less congested than on the corner of Lakeshore and Bradford Loop. So it's a little safer. But indeed, there is a licensed daycare there. And I think I speak for my neighbors when I say we never intended for the speed limit to be dropped across town. I don't think 25 miles an hour is appropriate on Andover Street, nor on after you get down on 97 past the business district and the cemetery, nor down by Carlton Drive. However, in these neighborhoods, such as Lakeshore or Londonderry or up at Teddy and some of these smaller neighborhoods, Jones Farm, whatever, it's just too fast. It's not safe. So I thank you for your time.
I think, Mr. Chairman, if I can add to that, in the recommendation of the Modernization Act, it said 2 cities and towns, and it was a recommendation by Mass DOT. It said that if cities or towns are going to opt into this legislation, they recommend that it is done so for the entire municipality to avoid potential confusion for drivers. Because if you're going to regulate a thickly settled area under this statute and under this authority, that if Lakeshore Drive were 25, but then another thickly settled area is remaining at 30, number one, it becomes an enforcement issue, but it's a public notification issue. The signs that would actually exist, these are regulated by DOT. We'd have to order these signs. And it states pretty clearly, and I don't know if you've seen them before, thickly settled speed limit 25 townwide, unless otherwise posted. So if you're traveling on one of our specially regulated 9018 roadways and you see 35, 40, 45, you realize that this certainly doesn't apply. But if you're driving down Marlborough Road, as Mr. Twist had said, or any other tributary roadway in Georgetown, I mean, I could list, I mean, you know, we have a couple of hundred streets. I could list 50 or 60 streets where, of course, the speed limit cannot be 30. It's just, it's impossible. But from an enforcement perspective, speed greater than reasonable, we have to use charges such as that if an accident occurs or something. But, you know, I was also asked, is this enforceable? Well, what we're doing right now is enforceable so long as I can put people in marked cruisers and get out and enforce speed issues and complaints. And we've been doing that very, very strategically, and I think the complaints have reduced. I've received positive feedback. I have an officer, Officer Lefebvre, who has taken this task on in this advisory system we have. Officers just don't go out anymore and just ride around like I did in the 80s and 90s, just looking for something to do. There are specific assignments with specific neighborhoods where they have to be there to assist residents with this problem of traffic. Not volume, but speed.
So the question for the board that I had tonight is how we go about you know, kind of communicating this to, you know, the people that will be at town meeting, because we don't want them to have the same misconception about what we're trying to do here, right? In which, again, we're only trying to lower, you know, those side roads to protect the kids and everything else, where, as Chief has stated, all those other, you know, signs, you know, that have otherwise, you know, can stay. So, you know, the question for the board, and which I wanted to bring up, was, hey, how do we do that? I was prepared to try to amend something on town meeting floor, you know, to include streets, but, you know, that might be a little long. So, you know, how do we feel, you know, about, you know, this question moving forward? Go ahead, Steve.
How's this for a solution? You said it's 25 unless otherwise posted.
That's correct.
And the idea was to remove the old signs. That may be 30.
Because it's a thickly settled area as defined.
If we don't remove it though, because it's as otherwise posted, can you get away with just addressing the areas of concerns as they come up for speed? So keep all the street signs that are there now, have your 25 in the thickly settled areas, which would take care of Lake Shore and the places that it's not posted, but don't do anything with any other signs until...
Well, as I read, and obviously, I don't know the answer to that question, but what I do know is when you read Section 193 of Chapter 218 of this Act, it says, town-wide basis may post thickly settled speed limit of 25 unless otherwise posted. The thing is, though, as defined, a thickly settled area that's posted 30 is contradicting the Act. So I can find that answer out, but I'm just trying to be logical in my thinking, that if you're defining a thickly settled area as thickly settled by definition, then the speed limit in a thickly settled area is 25.
I think the key, though, is the unless, right? And, I mean, if we could do that, so that goes to your question about how do you let people know. You tell them everything's staying the same. If it's posted, it's there, it's staying. If it's not, it's 25. I think they'd be receptive to that.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Well, I think Gary may have had a question prior.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry, I must have missed it. Did you have a question?
I put my hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Go ahead. That was me.
You know, to your question, it more goes to your question, Joe. What can we do? I mean, we're putting it on a warrant. We get someone like the chief to explain it at town hall, town meeting, like he's doing here. I mean, we as a board, I'm still not sold. I mean, this has been in front of me. Been on the traffic study committee. It's been in front of us there. The chief moved it there. He wanted something for West Street. You know, you're a man of the law, by the law. I've come to know you for that. Like you say, if there's a traffic sign that's too low, then take it down because you don't feel it can be enforced. But, and that's how you feel. But there's nothing to say that we passed this, that the whole town, sometime in the future, when you're not here or we're not here, is 25 miles an hour. And, you know, I remember the days when 133 was redone by the state. They did a good part of Georgetown. They did West Boxford. They posted signage. They set all the speed limits. And here's the one thing I remember, because I drove that road for years, and I remember this of other areas in town. You get stuck behind someone doing a reasonable speed. There was also marked lanes for passing. Us little towns have taken all of them away. And I mean, you get stuck behind someone who decides to go 25 miles an hour. Now, you legally, well, maybe you can legally pass them, because I'm not sure about the double yellow line. And so, as we've let the passing zones go away over the years, what's to say that the 40 mile an hour areas won't also go away over the years? So that's why, one of the reasons why I'm not sold. And I don't think that more regulation is going to necessarily slow everything down. I mean, I'm sorry, we're in a generation today of people that it's all about me. And by me, I don't mean me in particular. That's just the way people are. They drive, it's all about them. You know, and I don't know that putting this up is, when you enter Georgetown at 25, is going to slow one of them people down. I just don't see it. And that's my feeling. And so when you say, what can we do as a board? I think we're doing what we can. We each have opinions, and we may not all agree on them, but we've done due diligence to put this on and to allow the townspeople to make the decision. I think we're doing about the best we can. So, thank you.
Chief, I want to confirm. Route 97 and Route 133 is state roads, right?
Yes, by definition.
Right, so we can't do anything
No.
with Route 97 or Route 133.
You can't do anything with North Street. North Street's
On North
regulated.
Street, yeah.
Central
Okay,
Street.
so-
Yeah. And portions of Central Street have different speed limits for a variance of reasons because of, you know, the curvature in the roadway. Speed limit goes up, the speed limit goes down. Not set by the town of Georgetown, set by the Commonwealth of
Right.
Mass.
So the main roads in town, in and out of town, are not going to get changed because
No,
of
they're not.
of
And-
existing regulation.
I think to follow up with the reasoning behind this was communities were inundating Mass DOT and the legislature to change speed limits in their communities because thickly settled that 30 was just too high. So they wanted to give the power back to the people and back to the executive boards of communities to say, listen, you want to raise your speed limit, lower your speed limit from 30 to 25 in that thickly settled area, you have the ability to do that. And as we learned, this board we originally thought would have that authority, but because the governing board versus the legislative board, we learned that that has to be at a town meeting vote. So that's why it's there.
So I think that for some on this board, maybe all, but for some on this board, the idea really was the roadways that are being used as cut-throughs, that people go breakneck speeds through. And maybe even some of the residents of those roads, but
And what happens is, like, I just read the traffic study with regard to the new Sedler development that's going in. And, you know, we receive these 56-page documents with the traffic study, and I try to read them ad nauseum and understand where they come up with the mean speed, and they, you know, realizing volume, high peak volume, low peak volume. And even in some of our 25-mile-an-hour zones, because of the motoring public, when they can move, a lot of times during rush hour they cannot move, which is a good day for me because I deal with all the carnage of car crashes and problems. You know, the speed is still above and beyond. The motoring public drives too fast. I attended a crossover crash meeting for the DOT over in Boxford a couple of months ago because we have a very large volume of fatalities on 95 between Endicott Road and the Newburyport Bridge. I'm part of that team. And the average speed on Route 95 between that area, the median speed is 82 miles an hour. 82, and it's posted 65. So anything that we as law enforcement can do to slow the public down, I mean, that's my job, that's what I'm paid to do. And when I get inundated with complaints from our residents in these small neighborhoods where they're like, the traffic's flowing too fast, got 151 lane miles of roads to try to keep people at a speed that would be reasonable, that's why I'm in favor of it. Is it going to work, Mr. Fowler? I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that question, but what it does is it establishes a baseline for enforcement. It also establishes that all neighborhoods are treated equally. What I have a concern with is if we do one neighborhood and not another, then they're coming back, and then we're going to put it on town meeting for the rest of our lives, trying to change them all, when 218 gives us the ability to do that. I don't see the life effect with regard to that.
So my thought, Chief, is that, you're gonna have to be ready and equipped to get up to the microphone, at town meeting and just kind of.
Oh, I could probably tell my story. It doesn't mean anyone's going to listen.
Because I have a feeling we're gonna have a lot of residents that, we're gonna get up to the microphone and kind of give, maybe the same presentation that we got, from David and his neighbors. And, we really just, I think, have to make sure the folks understand what we're really trying to do here. We're not trying to, make 133, 97, because I'm sure a lot of those people, and maybe it even came FinCom, like a lot of things, they were just misinformed. They thought that, 133 was going to be 25, 97, and whatever, because I don't know how all four of them would have voted, no on this, but I just want to make sure before any vote is taken that, the people at town meeting actually understand what we're trying to do here.
And the whole reason this is even on the warrant was because we tried to address an issue on Taylor Lakeshore, the lower end of Bailey.
Yep.
And then we got told our vote was improper, and that we had to opt into this law.
Well, and as Chief said too, I mean, it's almost unfair if we just did it for these streets and not others. I mean, listen, my side streets, I don't want to see people going up and down 30. They don't. I've never had, filed a complaint. I don't think many people do, but there's a lot of kids on those streets, that are constantly, up and down, walking dogs and everything else. And, all those side streets, need to be regulated. So, Kip, I know you haven't said anything yet. So.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it's important for everyone to know that I think everyone wants their neighborhood safer. Everyone wants people to slow down in those neighborhoods. I think there is some ambiguity in terms of, or maybe a misunderstanding of really what the premise behind this originally was, and that it's really not the entire town moving down to 25. And to kind of move forward with that, I wonder if we could just come up with, because it's probably a short list, of the roads that actually are would not be 25 miles an hour. So people could just see that and be like, oh, that makes sense. All these other roads, all our neighborhoods are going to be safe, they're going to be slower. But 133, 97, North Street, there's probably not that many that would be outside the realm of the 25. At least everyone can say, all right, that makes sense, because everyone's going to know those main roads and be like, okay, I'm fine with that. Because I think there is a misconception initially that we were going to change the speed limit in the entire town to 25.
Yep.
So I think if we can communicate to the public that these are the roads that will not be 25, it might help at least educate the public a little bit more.
I think it's a good suggestion. Absolutely.
Do you think there's a lot that would be outside
Yes,
the
if there is, we can generate a list. We're paid employees, that's what we're supposed to do, right? I can generate that list.
All right, Chief. Well, thank you very much for that. I'll talk to you a little bit more about it as we lead up to town meeting from that standpoint. Actually, anything else on town administrator's report that you want to bring up?
No, Jan and I have been very busy. We're keeping the ship afloat.
All right, good.
We're in good shape.
Good. Jan, any update on Mike, by the way?
I talked to him last week and he was doing good.
He's doing okay?
Yeah.
All right, fantastic.
Just healing.
Mr. Sad, I'll follow up on your question with regard to the 30.
I just emailed you.
Okay.
Too, I found something on it. So
I'll just check with District 4. I try to use them as my backdrop, but
Awesome. Appreciate it.
welcome.
Question. So on the agenda, we have this public hearing that I should have addressed earlier, but we're skipping over it though, right? Do we have to open up a public meeting even though we're...
We should still, like we did last time, just open it.
See, I
Continue and then close.
Continue it and.
All right, so we want to open it. So I thought we were just going to skip over it, so my bad. All right, so why don't we open, the public hearing, which we were supposed to here for the SQF LLC. Roll call vote to open up the meeting.
Second.
Okay, motion is second.
Attorney, aye.
Yep, go ahead.
Roll call vote?
Yep, roll call
Fowler, aye.
vote to open it, yep.
Sadler, aye.
Bonavita, aye.
Dawes, aye.
Okay, so the meeting's open. So for all those following along, public hearing has been open, but we are going to move this public hearing to, what's the date again, Jan?
May 20th.
To May 20th, in which time that we will then open up another public hearing to speak about this topic on the SQF LLC Tilson request. Any other questions for?
So I think you need a motion to move it to that date?
Motion to continue the public.
Exactly. But I mean, do we have any comments first? I want to know if anybody, no? Okay. So if you have,
I guess where are we with the electrical light? I mean, just, can we briefly?
They have come up with some laws, I think that were in your
Okay.
packet, and he's gonna meet with Tilson and go over that and see if they can work something out between them, the
Okay,
light
so
department and them
there's-
under that,
So
so
in a
that
way,
they
we
may
could
just
say
go
that
away from this board, so he's
there's
trying to,
people in the town that are fully capable of doing, are trying to. It's okay.
yeah.
So,
okay. Anybody else want to chat in? No? Okay, so if I could, get the motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we continue the hearing for, what's their name, Tilson,
Yep.
to May 20th, 2019.
second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fantastic. Okay, and now we need to,
I move close.
Thank you.
Close the public hearing.
yep. So we had a motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for the clarifications. I appreciate that. Like I said, I was ready to just pass that over. Okay, so we're gonna go to the top. Everyone, minutes that we have to approve from March 25th. Everybody have a chance to take a look? Anybody have any comments on the March 25th minutes?
I have minutes in our, so we have March 25th and
Yeah, 25th and then April 8th.
April 8th, right?
Yep.
Okay. I don't have any.
All right, so if nobody has any questions on the March 25th minutes, can I have a
I
motion?
move that we accept the minutes of the Board of Selectmen's meeting from April 8th, 2019 as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments,
Okay,
questions?
so that's on the 8th.
Yep.
You're doing, okay, thank you.
Well, I did it backwards because that's the way it
That's
came out. in
okay,
my
that's
packet.
why I just wanted to be sure, 'cause,
No, this is on the 25th.
well, his motion was
Oh,
on.
mine was for
It was
the...
on the 8th, all right.
So, let me refrain from this, all right? Or revise this. We don't have to do both individually.
No, you can do both at the same time.
So, I move that we approve the Board of Selectmen minutes from March 25th, 2019, and April 8th, 2019, as presented.
Yeah, hold on. All right, so first of all, why don't we start, before you second, we're gonna start with the 8th, because that's what Doug had put out there, and I think someone seconded, right, the 8th, correct?
Yeah, I think I did.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor for March. All right, so with that being said, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, so that's April 8th. Gary, did you vote on that one?
Aye, I thought I just
Okay.
heard you say March 8th, so that's
Okay.
right, that's April 8th.
April 8th, I'm sorry.
Yes, okay,
If
aye.
I did say that. All right, so for the next one is March 25th.
So moved.
Fantastic.
Second.
Okay. Motion and second on March 25th minutes. Any other further comments? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain.
And we have one abstention. Thank you. All right. So we're going down to the Community Preservation Coalition request for support. Okay. Does everyone have a chance to take a look at this?
Mr.
still not quite sure what it is. Janet did her best to explain it to me, and I'm on that board and committee, so.
I had the same feeling.
Were you guys planning to be here, like to explain? Or?
I'll let Janet take it. If the chair's okay with that.
Find the letter. Well, the letter came into Mike and the board from the Community Preservation Coalition.
Coalition, not our town.
Yeah, so it's not the town, this is like a state group
Yeah.
who want to, so sending a letter to the legislature, the state, asking to increase the CPA Act, so the funds that come to each community. Because the funds have been cut down, the percentages, I'm not sure what the percentages are at.
3%. Oh, I see.
Yeah, so
pretty low.
they're writing a letter. They currently have, it says 42 signatures, so that they want to increase that. They're looking for that Georgetown's signature to put on their letter going to the state, asking them to increase the,
Increase the match
yes.
that the town gets, so not to increase the percentage of what you can have a town pay into.
No. It's to do with the match, the state.
Oh, yeah,
Just the
state
match.
match, yeah, what the state contributes.
And I'm not positive, but I think Georgetown might be a member of
fee
the
structure.
coalition. Do you know if, I was gonna try to reach out to Harry and find out, but I never got to.
I don't know, there is a copy of the letter on there, but yeah,
think we
it's
have
the
a
state
question.
match, sorry, so it's not what, not to change
Is
what
there a
the
need
town
to take care of this tonight, or?
It's the fee structure too.
Yeah, I think the letter is going out soon.
Okay.
It was the 22nd when they sent it.
I think
Well,
there's
she
a
asked if we could let us
question,
know
Janet,
on the
on
22nd. And I
the
think-
fee structure,
There it
though.
is.
There's a question on the fee structure.
So it says the solution is to increase the CPA recording fees at the Register of Deeds.
Right.
And that's how they were going to fix it?
Yeah,
That's-
they wanna do it in,
That's where the money comes from,
yes.
whenever there's a recording at the Registry of Deeds.
Well, the fees come from the town, and they pay the 3% on top of property taxes, right?
Right, the town residents
Gets that,
pay a fee.
And then we only get, the match is only based on anything that gets recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
At all the
Then
Registry of
different
Deeds in the
You
state.
actually get, I believe last year there was possibly 3 rounds of matches. They come out with a first round match, and it said that this is the amount that the state's gonna match per dollar that the towns are putting in. Now there's some other rounds that the state does, and Georgetown is eligible for them because we do the full 3%. Other towns, some towns only do like 1%, so they only get that first round match. Georgetown is able to get more than the first round match because we put in the full 3%. That little bit, I do know.
And the background to this is we got a good percentage match, almost 100 in the beginning, was it? Or 80 or something?
No, I think in the beginning it may have been dollar to dollar, but I don't think that lasted long.
So what ended up happening was
Every year it goes
communities
down because.
came on to the CPA,
Yes.
and they started to dwindle down what they get.
Yes.
So now they're asking to go up with fees
Correct.
on recording, which is gonna take care of the issue.
I'm not sure how much it's gonna probably increase your match, how much. I don't think it's gonna go back dollar to dollar.
If I might.
Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
If you remember, we had an 11-year feeding frenzy in real estate. And the recording fees were they just was a lot. And I don't remember when CPC started. Do you remember, Gary? Or CPA?
I would say it's probably about 15 years old.
So that would
I'm
be,
gonna guess.
see, that would be in that era of the feeding frenzy. Well, since then, more communities have opted to come into CPA, which dilutes the amount you're going to receive. And the legislature also expanded what you could use CPA funds for.
Right.
Okay, so.
Well, it says here, right?
Well, look, here's
Go
another
ahead, I'm
thing.
sorry.
So what's happened is We now had the crash in 2006 that we're coming back from, but now we have ridiculously low inventory. So you're not getting as much of the recording fees. So they just think by adding this unvoted on tax and increasing the recording fees is somehow going to fix CPA. I don't believe it. Because there's still more communities coming into CPA,
Right.
which dilutes the amount of funds that are going to come through. I mean, I'm all for it. They want to go right to the, they want to lobby the legislature, fine. I don't think personally, I don't think it's going to fix anything.
It doesn't not, even as they add more, even more towns come on, doesn't it add more fees as well? As more towns come in?
No.
No. It's just on the recording fees for transfers and sales and that get recorded at the registry of deeds.
Okay.
That's where the matching comes from. The 3% in Georgetown comes from us, right? Other communities aren't at 3%, but some have raised to 3 and others have lowered. But it's been diluted. The available funds have been diluted.
Yeah,
I think they should be in here explaining this to us if they want us to vote on it. That's my opinion. Obviously, there's a lot of questions, right? And we don't have
Now,
anyone.
this is the letter, remember, this letter comes from the coalition. I'm not for new taxes, you know me, you know that, but I mean, I don't, I mean, it's the chair that signs it, not us, so he can say, yeah, I want these new taxes.
Which I agree with Steve. I don't know enough about this to agree or disagree.
Yeah.
Regarding this, and certainly I'm not going to put my name on something if I'm not going to fully understand it. So.
That's what, let it ride till the next meeting.
Pass it over.
Do you want to try to get more information for the next meeting, or do you want to?
Yeah, I think we are going to need more information. So why don't we do that for now and pass it over, and I can talk to Jen a little bit more, about maybe some communication, that we can send back.
I think if you read your Mass Municipal, you'll also find some articles in there, in that publication, about the same thing.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna opt down to the Christmas tree lighting ceremony committee charge, because we're gonna get this in. We've passed over it quite a bit. So let's opt down to that.
And wait until November.
I know, right? So on this, subject, committee members are charged to organize a town-sponsored Christmas tree lighting ceremony by coordinating volunteers and financial sponsors to create a public tree lighting event for the residents of Georgetown each year between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So as you can see, there is a motion there, but I think the whole, kind of gist of this is we're gonna, try to put a committee together, right? Start it early, try to really plan it out. Get the appropriate people involved, that we have to get involved, and kind of take it from there. But start early because we first have to get a committee together. So with that said, before we have any more, anybody have anything that they want to bring up on the floor? Go ahead, Kip, why don't we start with you?
Well, first of all, I'll just say I think it's a great idea. I think it was great success last year. It was really fun. I think everyone had a really good time. I do know we've had some discussions about potentially, forming a group to do not just Christmas tree lighting, but maybe other events that, maybe folks want to do, or, there was Georgetown Days, and there was some other things that, that were done in the past. So my only suggestion would be maybe for the board to think about if we just call this maybe something else that's more generalized that could incorporate other events.
Yes.
That's, but I'm fully supportive of the committee. I think it's a great idea.
I think that's a good idea. It's just a matter of, does the committee, a committee to really, come together and put together one event, okay, is a lot different than putting on multiple events. And now you have people that might say, yeah, I really want to be part of this event, but I don't know if I want to be part of, scheduling another 3-4 events. That's, I think, Kip, quite honestly, that's my push for a director of Parks and Rec. All right. Even this, if this committee was put together, if we ever had a director of Parks and Rec, I would want either the director of Parks and Rec to be on that board, or for them to kind of lead the charge with this committee, kind of supporting, their efforts, with that. So I think if you throw too many different events at people, you're going to, number one, have a tough time getting some people to participate. Because if you have 4 events, for example, that you want to, I mean, you were part of, that event a couple weeks ago, and, there was, what, 5 of you, 6 of you? I don't know how many people were on it. It takes a lot of planning, just for that one event. It's a lot of work. So to plan 4 or 5, Georgetown Days and another event for this and the Halloween one or whatever, I think you might be, it'll be tough to get a committee together. That's my only concern. So, who else had their hands up? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
I was going to make this same point as Kip, but I understand your position on that. Are we still on the era where we're calling these holiday trees?
Well, that's,
I'm just curious.
if I.
Why is it?
Well, no, are we, or like, we're calling it a Christmas tree?
Yeah,
so-
I-
No?
Christmas tree.
All right.
At least that's what's coming out of my mouth.
Well,
right.
I can't, as much as where I am with Christmas, I'm all for Christmas, but I can't support that because the town can open itself up for liability. So that's one of the reasons why I agree with what Kip said, and that you call it something else, but that a holiday event, right now, that needs to be their only task. And if at some point it wants to grow, then at least it has that ability. And maybe people might want to, and then, as you said, by a future time, perhaps things will have moved forward for a park and rec director, and that could very well take over running it and heading it, but they're still going to want input from volunteers and that. So I think to what Kip said, I think it's best that it's not called a Christmas tree lighting ceremony. I mean,
Well, I didn't know what you were referring
Well, I
to,
was
by the way.
referring to, no, I
I know, I
was referring
thought
to
I-
that politically correct thing, but,
Well, because here's the
But
thing.
in
Don't
terms of a
forget, we
holiday-
also did the Star of David,
yeah.
right?
no,
And
I
that's
think-
why, for the, I guess, title of this, I would then go back to
Towns,
Gary's.
Yeah,
That, yes, because it's not just
Themselves in
Christmas
trouble
tree.
that way.
I would say that we call it a holiday event committee. Holiday event committee, and then we tell them your first charge is to do
There you go.
the tree lighting and whatever.
And that may be your only charge. Who knows?
Yep.
So you want a holiday event or an event committee? And the holiday event is your.
Doug, you have anything you want to add?
No, I'm fed up with PC, so.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I
So,
understand too, but
all right. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Oh, no.
No. All right. So, does someone want to read that?
No.
No way.
No way.
Not touching that. No, I will. So,
And by the way, you don't have to read it verbatim.
Yeah,
You can
no.
change it to what we just said.
Yep.
All right.
So I make a motion that we create a holiday events committee consisting of, did we talk about how many members?
Let's say 5.
Are we okay with 5?
Yeah.
5 or 7.
7? Yeah, let's do 7. You want to do 5?
Well, I only say 5
Okay.
because, again, we don't know how many
it's
people
easy
are
to
going to.
fill
It's
and
easy to-
quorum.
okay.
And because we can always go to 7, but
Okay.
let's do 5 for now.
A holiday event committee consisting of 5 members reporting to the Board of Selectmen with 1-year terms and charged with organizing a town-sponsored holiday ceremony.
Yeah, that's it.
By coordinating volunteers and financial sponsors to create a public event for the residents of
Do you want to say
Georgetown
winter holiday?
each year
perhaps?
between November and December.
Oh, okay.
Just leave that part out.
Another good one. All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion on this? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. Good job. All right. Thank
But
you.
let it be known, I'm in favor of having this, but I'm tired of PC crap, so I abstain.
Aye. You and me both.
By PC, you mean politically correct and not a personal computer?
Right.
Protective
thank you.
custody.
All right, so, board, we have to get on to the town warrants. So Janet sent out an email. Did everyone get a chance to see that email today? Okay, with the issue. So Janet, why don't you remind us first, for our public out that is watching, what we're going to have a conversation about here.
Take this is on the warrant on the changes? Is that what we were?
Yeah, well, and the financial impacts that we have to talk about this evening as well.
At the special town meeting, there were 3 financial articles with funds from the excise tax going to the STAB fund, tax stabilization fund, the capital stabilization fund, and the OPEB. Town council said that the funds, because the OPEB is not a STAB fund, that we can't do that, we couldn't put the 30% in there.
As a percentage, right?
As a percentage, yeah. So we took that off the special town meeting, and we already had that on the annual town meeting. So,
And Jenna, let me stop you there, because we're going to have to go, topic to topic, as there are a couple of things we have to talk about. So, regarding OPEB, as Janet just brought up, we're going to have to put in a dollar amount, okay, in the warrant rather than a percentage. So it's not like we can't put money in there, we're just going to come up with a dollar amount. Once I heard this, I turned around and I gave Chairman Doby a call from FinCom, and we had a discussion about this, about kind of how we're gonna tackle it, what we're gonna put on the warrant. We threw some suggestions out based on that 30% number, because we want to get as close to that as we can. So long and the short, Chairman Doby is proposing to the Board of Selectmen for approval a final number of $50,000 to be put into OPEB.
And that will be from free cash.
And
That would come from free cash, which that's why I had Janet then print up our free cash situation, which we can certainly look to do.
So OPEB would be about 110,000 or?
Correct.
I mean,
113,000. To at the end of the day. So basically, what you're doing is instead of taking it from here, you're taking it from here.
What
so we're
you're
still
saying, if I'm following you, you're gonna allow a certain amount that's not gonna get put in because council, once again, spoils our plans and says you can't do it this way. And that by not funding 100% of this money's into there, some of it will fall under free cash.
Free cash.
And this year, we will put it into there. But I would...
We don't have a choice. I mean, we can't take the percentage. from what I understand.
You could take what doesn't fall in there, and you could put it, you could take what you're gonna put in OPEC and put it into the tax stabilization account.
Oh, you mean
And
put
when
the
that-
percentage?
So that you're putting 100% in there, and still hope that you've got a decent amount of free cash, because there was some talk that we still could possibly fund some of them things with free cash at the annual town meetings. I mean,
Yeah.
there was that talk.
So you're talking about putting, like, say, 50 and 50, but then putting an additional 50,000 from free cash into OPEB. So we basically increased the amount that we're putting into the.
Well, I mean, we can, that's fine for this year, but I mean, remember, that what we're doing has to go before the state for approval. So that's why, the legal has led us down this road.
Yeah. The other
And
part.
so there's nothing that says that in the future, that what we're doing here is gonna continue, where if we put it all in there,
Yeah.
then that does continue.
So the other part
It does have to
about
continue for
this.
3 years. This, you can't change once this is voted
Yes,
on. It is-
that's what I'm following, yes.
So the other part about this, gentlemen, is that, so as you can see, remaining free cash is 493,000. It does not, it does take into account, but we wanted, what did we say we wanted to leave in free cash by, was it
300,000.
300,000? So the 193,000, if you take the 50,000, that brings it down to 140 something. And then, the other, two amounts. So, what Chairman Doby had mentioned as well was that he really didn't want to push the envelope too much, because he wanted to make sure that number stayed north of the 300,000.
We've consistently, Mike has managed to consistently keep us there. So,
I mean, I think as
and we don't
long as we're
know-
doing OPEB, that was,
We
you know,
don't
supposed to
know
do
that-
something, right? So
Yeah.
as long as we do something,
we're just guessing at that amount that's coming in.
No idea.
I mean,
Correct, we have no idea.
So, I mean, we were for trying to put away 100% of that in the savings, and I'd like, if we can't do it the way we planned, still do it, just do it with the first two questions. Can't do it on,
Yeah.
If you wanted to, so you
I
want
was
to
gonna
change
say
the
50% in the
35%,
first two.
35% to 50?
50-50.
That you'd have to do in the
50-50.
motion then, because it's already in the article, because this is already posted this
Yep.
way.
but I mean, yeah, but what I'm saying
Which
is,
still could be changed, but we'll have to put in the motion to change the articles from.
yeah, well, we're gonna have to change,
5%
we're gonna have to change one of them anyway, so it would just be changing the amount of the,
No, the OPEB one's already out of there. The OPEB is just in the town meeting.
oh, in other words, you gave us a new one today and you've taken that one out.
Yeah, because council said.
Okay, so we're not gonna be passing over, but what about the one you posted?
It's not in the one we posted. The one we posted does not, what I gave you is what was posted. What I gave you for tonight is what was.
No, but I mean, the one that we all signed 2 weeks ago, that was going up. Because
It
this
did
sounds
come
like,
off that. It did come off that warrant, at the recommendation of town council.
oh,
Try to
would have been nice to have known it before we signed it, I guess.
So is this letter is, well, from Mary, is suggesting that we need to have dollar values.
That's on, because that's on the annual town meeting, I think.
Yeah.
Not
Right,
the special town meeting.
right.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah,
never
so
mind.
that's what she's saying.
Yep,
that-
all right, I
that's-
get it.
And we
I
knew
get
them.
stuck on this
Our
deal.
plan was to do that at the meeting
Yeah.
that we had before town meeting, if my memory is correct. I mean, they're saying that we should have dollar values
Yep.
in the motions, and I think we always planned on doing that. Either we were gonna pass them over or put something in there. And so you're just really leading us down the road that Mike, you and Mary, that Mike would be doing.
Right, we have dollar amounts. Well, it was, Mary's concern was that if these don't pass at the special town meeting, they most likely will, and they're recommended to pass, so they most likely will, but hers is that the board should vote on a number, so if they don't pass, you have something at the annual town meeting, a number to put in there to fall back on.
Or no, or we could all still put some in, one way or the other. We
Well,
talked
yeah,
about,
Yeah,
because,
I mean, which we already, you just said Ed recommended putting 50,000 in the OPEB.
Yep.
So we will do that at the annual town meeting. And then if those two articles at the special pass, then we would skip over those in the annual town
What,
meeting.
what do we have for numbers in the annual?
no, we
There's
didn't
no
have,
numbers.
we didn't have to
Okay,
skip
right,
over those. We didn't have to skip over those at the end, if the first one's passed.
Well, you don't have to, but
Because, if you look, we've got current free cash, 667. We need to spend, there's three places there of what we need to spend. That still leaves $493,000 of free cash. So it would be.
of 300,000 that the board and the FinCom were recommending to stay in free cash. So it left 193,000.
193, yeah.
And
Yeah.
50, and then you were voting
So
to
there's
already take out 50,000.
193 that we could possibly put into those.
So it's 193 minus the 50, so it's really 143 to put in, that's
Either stays
available,
or-
that's
that's a-
available to then.
And that's what Mary was saying, those numbers, that just a decision should be made. Whether you want to make it the night of town meeting, but it just doesn't give us a lot of time to write motions and have it ready.
Yep.
She was saying.
But again, that's 143,000. Recommendation is 300 to stay north of that, but also to leave some money in case, we need some free cash, at some point in time to stay above 300, because you don't want to be 300 and then all of a sudden you need free cash, I don't know, 30,000, and then now you're at 270, right? Because that's not what the point is. We want to leave 300 in there, so you might want to leave even 350 in there to leave yourself a buffer, and then, maybe put the rest, which would leave 83,000. So that you could put, total of that.
We just want to make sure that the funds that we need to fund are funded
Yep.
properly.
Well, we've got to make
Because we
some,
got to get that reserve fund up to, what is it, to 1.5? Yeah.
Was it 1.5? Is it that high?
Yeah, it's like 1.3 to 1.6 someplace.
Yeah, I was going to say I thought it was 1.3, but I could be wrong.
But it's in.
It's a percentage of revenue, I know that.
so what we're trying to do is so that you set us up, you write it. I mean, I would like, I would move that on the, since we've got to make some changes, that we move to by motion on special town meeting of May 6, 2019, that we put 50% of the adult use marijuana excise tax into Article 3 and 50% of that into Article 4.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second conversation on that. I for one, I'm opposed to doing that, only because, again, it's for 3 years. We don't know where, the 35 and 35, we were all comfortable with 35, 35, and 30. And now, here we are, we're actually putting even more in. And what I think the 35 and 35
That's
represented.
100%. The only thing we're not putting in is OPEB. So we
Yeah, but
we
what I'm
were
saying is-
planning on taking 100%.
Correct, right. So but now you're doing 50-50, which is 100%, plus another 50,000 into OPEB. So we've increased the amount all of a sudden by 50,000 rather than just allocating funds differently. And, I listen, I'm all in favor of funding these things, but I also don't want to leave the town short in areas where if we need money, that we're going below 300. You just never know what comes down the line.
Remember,
And at 83,000, if we funded 50,000 for OPEB, if we had 143,000 left, right? Is that? Oh no, 143,000 was after OPEB. So the question is 140. What does that represent? Is it? It could be less, could be more than 50%, but I don't know, it just seems like a big number if we want to leave some more money in, oh no, wait, it does not include OPEB, because we had 193, my point was to leave 50 in there to make it 350 of available free cash, which left a total of 143,000. If we put OPEB, 50,000 into OPEB, that left 83,000 for them to put into the other two funds. And all of a sudden, we're funding OPEB, seems like more than the other two funds, which I don't know if we really want to do that. Right? I'd much rather fund the other two funds more than OPEB. So that's the allocation there seems a little off to me.
well, the tax stabilization fund, remember, once it gets up where it needs to be, or any time that it's for an emergency, and you get it up to where that it's recommended, then feel free to start hitting it for other town projects. That's the idea of that fund. It's a savings account. And, I was further gonna, if this passes, recommend that we say that we put 50,000 on, and that was gonna be the only motion that we do on the annual town warrant, that we fund OPEC, that we leave the others to blank. And if these two get voted down, then we'll be scrambling there on town floor, but I think we're capable of doing it.
I agree, Mr. Chair, with the 50/50. I mean, so if we go with the 35, the 35, the other remaining is going to go into the general fund, correct?
Yes.
So it's 35 and 35, then it goes.
And you don't know.
30% will go into the general fund for any operational needs that we have, correct?
But which then the money then goes right back out into OPEB. That's the thing. All we're doing is really saying the 30% that we're not putting in as a percentage will drop down to free cash, in which then we take that money from free cash and then fund OPEB. So we're just not taking a percentage. We're doing-
So every year then?
No, that's the thing.
No, that, for OPEB, no. For the other
No.
two,
So it could go into the general fund a year too?
Yes, yes.
correct.
Depends on the makeup of all the
Yeah.
votes.
See, and I mean, I just think, based on our discussions that we've had, I know we haven't had a whole lot, but I think the consensus was we wanted to use for like capital projects, for like one-time expenses as opposed to rolling those into
That's my
budgets.
feeling, yes. I
Yeah.
mean, we know where it's going, and it's,
Yeah.
it's 3 years. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, if in 3 years it needs to be changed, it gives us a chance to change it or to continue, I believe.
Yeah. I would agree with that, and we also gotta remember that these host agreements are good for 5 years? So who knows if they're even gonna.
Well, this is the excise tax.
Oh, the excise, I'm
And we
sorry.
don't know what those sales are gonna be.
Sorry, I'm sorry, yeah. It could go, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it could change too, yeah. No, that's a good point. But yeah, I agree with Gary. I'd rather go with
Kip?
it.
I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence here. I think I feel honestly, more comfortable with the 35. It's a big jump, in my opinion. I don't know, seems like a big jump to me, all at once.
Okay. Doug, you have any other further questions?
I'm all set with being able to put as much money as we can away from this excise tax into the STAB fund and the capital fund.
Yep.
And when we get the capital fund built up and we get the STAB fund built up, the money is there. We saved, we're taking care of the town instead of just spending. We're saving money, getting it to a point to where Moody says we should be. And once we get there, then we're free to spend that.
Yep. I'll also note that this part, just as a note, this part was not discussed with Chairman Doby, right? Chairman Doby and I had a discussion about how we're funding OPEB. The recommendation was 50,000. There was no mention to, hey, maybe we should, increase the number. So I'm not really sure if that means anything to anybody. I just want to make sure it's
Well,
noted.
they also have a meeting before town
Yes.
meeting.
I would like their advisement on it. though.
Yeah, and they'll.
They were looking to get a meeting for next week. I don't know if they get a quote, if they have or not. They were looking, because I did talk to Ed today myself too. And,
Okay, so listen, we have a motion on the floor, if we have a second as well. So are there any further questions or concerns?
I have
Yeah.
concern. So if we want advisement from the finance committee, we obviously can take a vote if we need another one right before town meeting, correct?
Yeah.
So it's not like that.
No, we're just basically telling Janet what to write up for her to write out motions, and that really is the way.
And they'll be right next door, or we're having our meeting.
Right, exactly. Okay.
All right, and to clarify here, Gary, your motion here is just for the 50/50, nothing to do with OPEB.
Yeah, that's not on there, that's why I made the
Yeah,
motion.
this is just to put the 50 in the 50, correct?
Into
the two
Article
funds.
3 and
Okay.
4, yes.
All right, so let's vote this. So all those in favor of putting 50% into the tax stabilization and capital project stabilization account, say aye.
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 Opposed? Nay. Okay, so that's 3-2 in favor. Okay, and as far as OPEB is involved, someone want to make a motion for
Yeah,
that?
I'll move, what article is that? that one, that's probably 5. but let
That
me
was
see.
5.
5, yeah.
Okay, I'll move that, we take $50,000 from free cash to fund Article 5 of the annual town meeting into the OPEC fund.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second?
I'm just trying to make sure.
Second for discussion purposes.
Yep. So we have a motion, a second.
Other post-employment benefits trust fund.
Further discussion.
Is that one a 3-year mandatory period
No,
too?
that's coming from free cash was the motion.
Okay, so it's a yearly thing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Go ahead, Steve.
OPEB was supposed to be up to 1.3, 1.5.
No stab fund.
No stab.
What is OPEB?
Yeah, we had
I
a
know
dollar
they said that we need
amount,
to
and
do
it's-
something, but what exactly does that mean?
I don't know if
It's
there's
like
a,
other personnel.
He gave
employee
us something,
benefit.
I think it's over
How did we
3.
decide the 50 grand then? Was that advice from finance committee?
yeah, oh yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
what, Ed is comfortable with.
Okay, no,
From
that's
an
fine.
advisory standpoint.
Sure,
Yeah.
okay.
That was his recommendation.
Isn't that
I
the
just
balance?
didn't know
That's the
where we
balance, but
had to be eventually on
I think the
that, yeah.
question was, how much is recommended that we need to get that up to? And I
I
think
gotcha.
that,
They really haven't
I mean, it's a moving target every year.
Yeah.
Moody just wants to see us making
Yeah.
the motions to, put some money into this and start funding.
We actually have a policy, see, that's just it, I forget what our policy is, but that's why those warrant articles go on there, because it's our policy to put a certain amount of the free cash into those things, so.
So do we have any further discussion on the OPEB?
Anyone second that? I didn't.
Yeah, Doug did.
I did.
Yeah, Doug did. All right, and Gary made the motion, so, all right, so if there's no further discussion on that, all those in favor? Aye.
I,
That's unanimous. All right. All right, thank you, gentlemen, for that discussion. Jan, what else on this? Did we have any other questions on the warrants?
I think those were the only questions that were on there.
Did we have to vote? Did we vote these yet?
Yeah,
yeah.
We did already, right? Okay, that's right. But I think that was it, right? We just had to talk about,
just those ones.
Chair, if I could add a question about the articles, it seems like we did it a little bit differently this year than in the past. We typically put what the vote is, like 3-2 or 4-1, 5-0. It's like
Yeah.
we put on these this year, were recommended by the selectmen, or is
I
there
can
a
put
reason
the
why we
voting.
changed that?
I
just
didn't,
curious.
that was, I haven't added to that to this yet. That doesn't go on this warrant, the FinCom book. In the FinCom book, I
Oh,
will put
okay.
in there
Put the votes on there.
yeah,
Okay.
put in the votes, yeah, that doesn't usually go on this is the warrant that's posted.
Okay.
But the one that goes in the FinCom book, that everybody gets at town meeting, will have, recommended by the FinCom 2-1 or 3-1.
Okay, great.
and by the selectmen.
Awesome.
That's, hopefully will be by the end of this week.
It's on the list.
all
I
right.
have to wait for, things to get done.
Gentlemen, we've come to the end of our agenda. Chief, would you like to add anything?
I have just two things. Peter Durkee just contacted me, and he wanted to remind the public that Earth Day is the 27th, which is this Saturday, from 8 a.m. to noon, and they all gather at the town parking lot, the town parking ride, and for Earth Cleanup Day. So he wanted the public to remind you of that. Secondly,
Chief, actually, on the 27th, is there any way we can get that posted?
Yeah.
On the town Facebook page?
Sure.
Okay.
Can you send it to me? What you have there?
yeah, he had just sent me a text.
Oh,
I
okay.
can send you
It's
some.
on the,
Yeah.
what do you call it, too? It's on 133.
It's on the
It's
sign outside.
Oh, it is?
out front
by
already.
that,
I remember seeing it.
when you go to Elm Street, when you take the left on Elm, it's right, and right in
Yeah, the
corner
blue,
there.
our blue
okay.
traffic sign. And then also, Mr. Durney requested the speed limit list. I have it already for all of the roads that would not be included. It's actually listed under 25, 34 in our, 250 speed limits, which, for Mr. Fowler, for some historical perspective, was adopted back in 1965 and then amended in 70, has been solid ever since. So these are the roads that will not change, and it delineates right down to the 10th of a mile. So I did have that, but I'll pass that out so you guys can have one more piece of paper to read. So at least that list is on. That homework assignment is complete.
Chief, where's the printer? How do you?
We need an electronic copy now. We can post it online.
I have enough to do, so I'm going to check that one off the list.
I didn't hear the printer, nothing.
So at least you'll have to that, and that actually covers north and south, east and west, right down to the 10th mile marker where speed limits are 35 to 40, 45, depending on the road, east, west, central, and North Street. So those are the roads that will not be changed whatsoever, including the business districts downtown, so.
Nice.
Jerry, if we can be equipped with this list at town meeting, so we can read them off.
If I may,
Sure, Gary, go ahead.
can roads be added to this?
That's the special regulation adoption on the
That you talked
9018.
about earlier.
That would be the DOT binder that I showed you, where we would have to actually go in order to change those speed limits. That's an adoption through Mass DOT and the legislature, not us.
I mean, what comes to my mind is Jackman Street after the overpass. I mean,
Right.
that thing's as straight as an arrow, and I know that, I know people who live there that you get complaints, but you post,
But it's
you
not-
say that's 25, you'll probably be making a lot more money down in that area because,
But that will not be posted 25 because it's not a thickly settled area by definition. It's an industrial zone. So when you come over, coming down, if it's not designated as a 25 mile an hour thickly settled roadway,
yeah.
similar to Tenny Street
that-
where you go
that
by.
industrial drops off shortly after, right?
Right, because you have an undivided overpass at 40, that would continue down
What I say.
to just about Ordway Street, and you don't have,
So. Thank you.
you're welcome. That's it,
Chief,
sir.
that it? Anybody else have anything else that they want to bring up? Janet, please.
Okay, this was decided on his last meeting besides town meeting.
It is?
It is. It was a pleasure.
What, the 29th is it?
Thank you.
The 6th of May is,
Oh, that's the workshop.
29th is a
oh yeah,
workshop.
that's
The workshop.
But this is the last,
Meeting.
televised.
well,
He's here on time for it and everything.
Yeah, really?
Well, Selectman Sadler, we truly appreciate all your time, your effort, your time away from your family, and really being influential on this board. Maybe the one major thing that I associate you with is your research. You're fantastic at it. You're very thorough, and it was really welcomed because it's actually one of the things I'm not good at. So we truly appreciate your efforts and the time that you spent, doing that homework and background, and we will certainly miss you on the board.
Well, thank you very much. I
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it. And it was a pleasure to work with all you gentlemen and you, Janet, as well. I won't be going anywhere. I think we still got some work to do on the communication committee and economic development, so hopefully I'll be able to stick around on those committees if you so choose.
You so choose.
Well, you guys are the ones that got a point, right? But no, it's been great, and I've really had a great experience, and hopefully, I think we've done a lot of great things on this board, so we'll leave it up to you guys to continue.
You brought a lot.
Greatness, so thanks again.
Certainly is.
And
Thank you, Steve.
the workshop,
Yes.
I'll need to be there by phone.
What was the date for that?
That's next Monday, I believe. We're still on for that.
So this was, I was going to ask this when we were ready. So this was determined at the last meeting that we were going to have this workshop when I wasn't here. So
Yeah.
what did we try to accomplish on this one, on the workshop?
We were gonna try to move ahead with the what is it? The MRI
MRI report for the fire department.
report that said that we should
Yeah, the
start.
recommendation for fire department, just start to discuss what was in the report, right?
Yeah, yeah, and how
what
to
recommends-
move
what
forward with some of their recommendations and that. I saw Chief Mitchell last week, went over it a little bit with him, told him, he said, yeah, no, that's great, we'll move it forward. I don't know, one of the things that came up was whether we were gonna try to have somebody from MRI there. I don't know if the chief
Right.
got, do you know?
I mentioned to him, I don't know if
He was gonna,
get
Yeah,
that
he was
check.
gonna ask if he was through with this contract or if he had hours that were
Yeah,
remaining.
okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I think that, one of the ways we've got to start, I mean, this needs to be open to everybody. I mean, it's a workshop, but I mean, it needs to be open to all. We've got to start talking over there out in the open. I don't see things getting any better if we don't start openly talking about a lot of what is in this. So, I mean, I hope that firefighters would attend it also, that it's not our meeting, it's a meeting for the town, and to move forward on, we got this report, it's one of the best reports I've seen. So, but so, yeah, Janet's got that on there as our next meeting is a workshop. I'll attend by phone, I'm gonna be out of town, but I cannot make up a quorum. Well, remember, I wanted to have it last week.
Yep,
So if it doesn't look like you're gonna get a quorum, then you may need to
I'm
move it
fine
down.
with that, Gary, if you
Yeah.
do by phone. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Oh, yeah, well, so I cannot make it. That's my son's birthday, and I will be out and about with my family, so.
Yeah, and honestly, if you have to be by phone, you can't make it, and, we're gonna have a new person here too, and that's probably a good conversation for that person to be involved with as well. We might really want to delay until after the election.
Move it till after, that or the town meeting. No.
After
Well,
town meeting.
Right, yeah, okay.
Well,
Right.
then why don't we put it on the agenda for our
So it would be,
next next board meeting after we,
town meeting.
what do we call it that we'll do? We'll be reorganizing.
yep.
Is that May 20, Janet?
Makes
May 20th is our next meeting.
Yep, so why don't we shelf the workshop for now, and then, yeah, we'll put it on for that next meeting.
Will you let Chief Mitchell know?
Yeah,
I think that
because
makes sense.
the Monday after, that's Memorial Day, so you couldn't do it then.
Be back to by then.
Yeah, and Mike might be back by then too, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so move that to the.
So the 29th is
Want to
canceled.
vote, Gary, on a time, or you guys?
No, I mean, like I say, and I wasn't trying to, I hope I made it clear that night. I wasn't trying to do anything because Joe wasn't there. I brought it up because we've all talked about it.
Yeah.
And I said, we've now gotten budget process behind us. We've got the town warrant behind us as big things that we need to move, we need to move on to this.
And it was unanimous
Yeah.
for us to do it, so it's, so we were all on board.
Makes sense.
Okay.
So move it to the 20th.
So I want to provide an update for the board, and I've communicated, as best I could, but I just heard back today. So a lot of us in the community and on this board understand that there's some concern around Moulton Street. I've been in contact with the remediation company headed by Chris Mabbitt. Had a discussion with Chris in terms of how we can communicate to the members of the community, what's going on there, what the goal is, with the remediation of that land. So it's important to note for those who are watching that is private land, that the owner of that land has hired Mabbitt Associates to remediate, that land, and they are continuing to do so. I have had, conversations with that company. I have not spoken with the owner. I've spoken with some folks here at Town Hall. It is also a project that is headed by Mass DEP. Right, they're on top, right? They call the shots in terms of compliance, so forth and so on. So what I have asked Chris to do, Chris Mabbitt, is they're going to develop one of those big signs to put on the fences outside of the project, and it's going to have a picture of what the site is going to look like once completed, and then they're also going to have information for the general public to read in terms of what they're trying to do at the site, what the whole plan is. I don't know if they're going to put time frame on there, but it's going to be big enough where the owner of the site approved, that expense to put that sign on there. Our expectation is that the sign will be in sometime later this week and should be posted either late this week or early next week. all right, for anybody who wants to go and read the sign, kind of see what the pictures are going to look like, so forth and so on. In addition, their council is going to come up with a one-page synopsis of what is going on, what they're trying to do there in terms of cleanup, the advantages of what they're doing in terms of how they're going to make things better, there, and what their cleanup, and what they're going to do is once that is done, they're going to send it to me, and I'm going to send it to town council just for their review. And what I'd like to do is get town council's feedback as far as how we can post it to our site. But in addition, they are going to post the same letter to the Mass DEP site, so that anybody can go onto that site, review it, read the letter in terms of history, past, present, future, and really kind of get a little bit more intimate in terms of what's been going on there. Again, for us, we're going to post it hopefully on our site with general council or town council's feedback in terms of how we do that. I'm sure they're going to put some wording into the effect that the site has nothing to do with the town of Georgetown. We don't own it. We don't have they map it, and the Mass DEP have been informing us every step of the way. We have files on it, things like that, but we don't call the shots on that site. Okay, so I'm sure town council will have some feedback on that, and we'll get that posted so everybody hopefully is educated as to what's going on there. Okay.
Great. Chair, you mentioned that there was going to be a picture of the site.
Yes.
Is it being developed into something, or?
Yeah, well, there's going to be a structure on there with something within the structure that is going to be kind of the mechanism to do.
As part of remediation.
That's
it's not
right.
like after the site's cleaned up, here's.
No. This is going to be
Gotcha.
the structure with whatever is in
I
it
see.
that is going to be doing the remediating, of the site. But there are plans for landscaping.
Sure.
Trees, the whole thing.
Oh,
right.
really? Nice.
So they're trying, their best to, to make sure it's aesthetically pleasing, but at the same time, really doing its job.
Sure.
All right. So,
My understanding of that structure is it'll contain some type of process to remove groundwater,
Yeah.
filter it, and put the filtered water back into the ground.
Yeah. And I told someone the other day, it's probably a bad comparison, but it's like dialysis, right? I mean, you're hooked up to dialysis. It's basically cleaning and then putting back, right? So that's all it's doing. But it's going to be a long process. It's not an overnight kind of thing, which is why it's going to be put in a structure. It's going to be an ongoing, long process, but it's gearing towards doing the right things by the site for our citizens, so they don't have to worry about it, moving forward.
Great.
Okay, so Chris is going to let me know when that's done, and he's also going to be emailing me the letter. So once I get the letter, what I'll do is I'll send it to town council. Does everyone want to take a look? I can always forward it to everybody as well. So I'll forward it along. But we're not going to post anything until we get town council's input, because again, I want to make sure that we're presenting it in a way that our folks know that this isn't the town, this is someone else, and we're just trying to educate our citizens as to what's going on. Okay. All right. So I got nothing else.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Good night, everyone.